Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by telling you something that you may not hear enough. You matter. You matter not because of what you've accomplished, not because of who approves of you, not because of how perfect your life looks from the outside, but because of who you are at your core. You are worthy, you are powerful, and you don't have to prove that to anyone to make it true. But somewhere along the way, life, with all its noise, pressure, and expectations, tried to convince you otherwise. Maybe it was a heartbreak. Maybe it was a rejection. Maybe it was someone who didn't see your value, someone who tried to box you in, tame your fire, or silence your voice. And little by little, you start shrinking. You start doubting. You started forgetting the truth of who you are. Well, today we stop that cycle. Today we break the pattern. Because you were not made to shrink. This world will try to mold you into something you're not. Quiet, agreeable, easy to overlook. But greatness was never born from comfort zones. Power doesn't come from playing small. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand out, to rise, to lead, to live boldly in the fullness of your truth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your reminder. You are not too much. You are not too loud. You are not too soft. You are not too emotional, too ambitious, or too different. You are exactly as you were meant to be. And if someone can't handle your light, that's not your burden to carry. That's their limitation, not your flaw. We live in a world that thrives on making people feel less than, less attractive, less successful, less worthy. But here's what I need you to understand. You set the tone for your life. The moment you stop asking for permission to exist, to speak, to dream, to grow, is the moment you reclaim your power. So no more apologizing for being real, no more hiding behind fear, no more seeking validation from people who couldn't even see your value if it was standing right in front of them. You were not created to be overlooked. You were created to lead, to inspire, to impact. You are not defined by your failures, your flaws, or your fears. You are defined by your resilience, your vision, and your heart. This is your season to rise, to own your voice, to take up space, to stop shrinking and start shining. You've waited long enough. You've played small long enough. Now is the time to step into the truth. You are not defined by what you lack. You are defined by everything you've overcome. So let the world adjust to your light, because from this moment forward, you are done playing small. Know your worth, not your weakness. You were not made to shrink. Let's start with something. The world doesn't tell you enough. You are powerful. You are enough. You are valuable. But somewhere along the way, life, with all its noise, critics, and disappointments, made you forget that truth. Somewhere, someone made you believe that your flaws defined you, that your failures disqualified you, that your voice wasn't worth hearing, and your dreams weren't worth chasing. But listen closely, that's a lie, and it's time to unlearn it. The truth is, you were not made to shrink. You were not created to dim your light so others could shine. You were not born to live in fear of your potential. You were made with purpose on purpose. And that purpose is far too great to be buried under self-doubt and comparison. Every time you stare at the mirror and only see your weaknesses, you're robbing yourself of the full picture. You are not just your scars, your insecurities, or your mistakes. You are your strengths, your heart, your spirit, and your comeback story. You see, people love to remind you of where you fall short. They'll point out your flaws while ignoring your growth. They'll talk about your failures, but stay silent on your resilience. But just because others can't see your worth doesn't mean it isn't there. It just means they're not qualified to define it. You can't control how others see you, but you can absolutely control how you see you. And the moment you start seeing yourself through the lens of your worth instead of your weakness, everything changes. You stop settling for less. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop doubting your voice, your ideas, your dreams, because you realize you were never the problem. You just forgot your power. The world will try to tell you you're too much, too emotional, too loud, too ambitious, too sensitive. But let me ask you this, too much for who? You were not born to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You were born to grow, to evolve, to stand tall, even after being broken. So today, I want you to stop apologizing for existing. Stop minimizing your achievements. Stop hiding your dreams behind fear. You have survived storms others couldn't even imagine. You've carried weights in silence that would have crushed someone else. And through it all, you are still standing. That's not weakness. That's power. That's worth. From this moment on, remind yourself daily, I am not defined by what I lack. I am defined by all the strength I've gained from what I've survived. Know your worth, not your weakness. Because the world needs the real you, not the small version you've been pretending to be. Stop apologizing for existing. There comes a point in life when you have to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You have to stop shrinking to fit the mold others have designed for you. You have to stop apologizing for simply existing. Too often, we walk through life trying to be palatable, polished, perfect. We try not to take up too much space, not to make too much noise, not to offend or disrupt. But in the process of trying to be acceptable, we lose our authenticity, we lose our truth, we lose our power. You weren't created to be a watered-down version of yourself just to make others comfortable. You were made to be bold, brilliant, and unapologetically you. Let this sink in. Your existence is not a burden. Your presence is not a problem. You don't owe anyone an apology for your dreams, your emotions, your ambition, or your boundaries. The world might try to guilt you into staying quiet, staying small, staying in your place, but hear me loud and clear. You were never meant to stay in a box. You are not here to meet everyone's expectations. You are here to fulfill your own destiny, and anyone who demands you to shrink in order for them to feel big is not someone you owe anything to. Stop saying sorry when you've done nothing wrong. Stop apologizing for saying no, for taking care of your mental health, for wanting more, for walking away from relationships that drain you. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. There is something powerful about standing in your truth and saying, I don't need to be liked to be worthy. I don't need to be understood to be enough. Because the truth is, the people who truly see your value will never make you feel like you're too much or not enough. They'll appreciate you exactly as you are. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to grow, to shine, to dream out loud. You don't need permission to be powerful. And you don't need validation to chase after the life you know you were meant for. The next time you catch yourself dimming your light just to keep someone else comfortable, ask yourself this: why am I silencing the very thing that makes me unique? Your light was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to lead. It was meant to inspire. So stop apologizing for being passionate, for being sensitive, for having a voice, for not settling, for evolving. Every day that you stand in your truth, you inspire someone else to do the same. You don't need to be anything other than who you are, because who you are, when you fully accept and honor yourself, is more than enough. Know your worth, not your weakness. The world doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs a real one. You are the standard. Start acting like it. There comes a time in your journey when you stop looking around for validation and realize you are the standard. You are the foundation, the blueprint, the one who sets the tone for how others treat you, how opportunities find you, and how your life unfolds. And the moment you stop waiting for someone else to recognize your worth is the moment you step into your true power. But here's the catch. You can't walk like you're unsure and expect others to treat you like you're solid. You can't speak like you're afraid and expect others to hear you like a leader. If you want people to respect your worth, you've got to start showing them how it's done. You got to carry yourself with the kind of quiet confidence that says, I know who I am and I'm not afraid to stand alone if I have to. When you realize that you are the standard, you stop settling. You stop chasing people who don't see your value. You stop tolerating half effort, half love, and half interest. Because someone who knows their worth doesn't beg for breadcrumbs when they know they bring the whole table. Your standards are not too high. Your standards are a reflection of your healing, your growth, and your self-respect. And the truth is, when you start acting like the standard, some people will get uncomfortable. Some will say, you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have. You've outgrown the version of yourself that used to tolerate less. You've risen above the mindset that once doubted your voice. You've evolved. And that's something to be proud of, not ashamed of. Let's make something clear. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. Knowing your worth doesn't mean you think you're better than others. It means you've done the inner work. You've cried, struggled, sacrificed, and rebuilt yourself. And now you refuse to let anyone treat you like you're ordinary. Because you're not. You are rare. You are resilient. You are the kind of person who gets back up every time life tries to knock you down. You've got a strength in you that the world can't quite measure, and a fire in you that fear can't put out. So walk like you know who you are. Speak like your words matter. Move like your dreams are possible. Because they are. And when doubt creeps in, when people question your path, your pace, your purpose, remind yourself, I am the standard. I attract. I don't lower my energy to meet others. They rise to meet mine because I know who I am. I know what I carry. And I know that what I bring to the table is valuable. Know your worth, not your weakness. Because when you move like a standard, the world has no choice but to follow your lead. If you've made it this far, let me tell you something important. You didn't come here by accident. You were meant to hear this message today because this is your moment. The moment you stop shrinking to fit into the spaces that were never built to hold someone as powerful as you. You've been quiet for too long. You've been apologizing for your presence, doubting your worth, and questioning your voice. But no more. Today, you reclaim your fire. You remind yourself that your worth was never up for debate. It was never determined by who stayed or who walked away, by what you have or don't have. By how many times you fell or failed, you are still worthy, still enough, still powerful. Life may have knocked you down, but it didn't knock you out. You're still here, breathing, rising, evolving, and that alone is proof that there's more ahead of you than there is behind you. You see, the moment you realize that you are the standard, not the exception, not the afterthought, but the standard, is the moment everything changes. You no longer beg to be seen. You walk in your light. You no longer lower your standards. You raise your energy. You no longer look for permission. You give yourself the green light to live loud, love deep, and lead strong. Stop waiting for someone else to validate you. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. You're here to live it, to embody it, to walk in rooms like you know your worth, because you do. Remember, not everyone will understand your journey, and that's okay. Not everyone will clap when you win, and that's okay too, because you're not living for applause. You're living in alignment. You're walking in purpose, and you're moving with intention. The right people will feel your energy and rise with you. The wrong ones will fall away. Let them. There is no more room in your life for shrinking, for settling, for second guessing. You've outgrown that chapter, and the new one requires your full power. So speak boldly, move with confidence, stand tall in who you are. No more hiding, no more apologizing, no more playing small. Because you, my friend, are the standard. And if no one else has told you lately, let me remind you, you are worthy, you are chosen, you are powerful. And you are just getting started. So the next time life tries to dim your light, remember this. You were not made to shrink. You were made to shine. Don't just exist, take up space. Don't just survive, lead, inspire, elevate. Know your worth, not your weakness. Because the world doesn't change by people who blend in. It changes by people who dare to stand out. Now rise up and walk like it. Because your future is waiting. And it's unapologetically bright.